he can gavel them or throw it or talk to the officer down there. But hopefully, I think everyone will be, it seems like a nice crowd. Everyone's going to cooperate and it'll be fun time. Thank you.
And we've told, they don't have to read their whole prepared remarks because they'll be published. They can just, say what they want to say in the time. I figured that if everyone takes one more minute, they'll learn another hour, and so we've got to keep time. But I think we can do it. And if candidates, if you will start with Don number one, answer that question, and just follow and not be called on, just follow in order, please, and until the next question. So Don, would you start us, please? And I'll ask the question. Please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background and tell us why you decided to run for the council.
My name is Don Fogel. I am a retired civil engineer. My wife Nancy and I moved here 7 years ago. I was originally appointed to the town council after Hurricane Florence. I was then elected to a 2-year term in 2019. That term was extended by 1 year, so I have spent the last 4 years as a Riverbend town councilman. As part of my council duties, I am the council liaison for the Community Watch and CERT groups. I also serve as the town's representative to the Coastal Regional Solid Waste Management Authority, which you would probably know better as the Tri-County Landfill. For the last year, my wife and I have hosted and promoted about 60 grassroots community events in Riverbend that the town's agents refuse to do. With the assistance of a diverse group of community volunteers, we have coordinated line dancing lessons, poetry reading, nature presentations, a free throw shooting contest, ukulele sing-alongs, monthly community walks, and just last Saturday, a car show in participation and partnership with the Riverbend Country Club. Assuming we have an average attendance of 20 people per event, 1,200 people have participated in these free events in Riverbend. I believe people who are active live longer and enjoy a more satisfying life. I feel this community needs social and entertainment events to engage our residents. I would like to see even more activities and events in Riverbend. Like you, my wife and I could have chosen anywhere to retire. Like you, we chose Riverbend, not just because of what it had to offer at the time, but because we saw the potential that Riverbend has to be the perfect home to people in all stages of life, singles, families, and retirees. The addition of younger folks with families helps keep all of us young. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mike Reppening. I guess I'm the newest Riverbend resident up here. We moved here back in April from rural Texas, and we wanted to find a little town to live in where we could become a part of the community and participate in community activities. And so pretty much as soon as we moved here, I started coming to town council meetings. My wife got involved in the community organic garden. She's on Parks and Rec, and just about any time that there's an event and we don't already have plans, we show up for it and bring the kids in tow. Right after, my very first town council meeting that I came to, there was a discussion about a development coming in to put 300 homes on 100 acres. And I didn't think a lot of it other than that's the sort of stuff that I was moving away from. I'm enjoying Riverbend because it's a nice, quiet, small community with a diverse community. And so I got involved in the opposition of that. And in the process of that opposition, heard from a lot of people that we needed some younger faces with families on the town council. And the last 15 years I've spent in leadership and management. And so I felt like I was a pretty good fit for the role. Just like tonight's meeting, we were told that the town always has a candidates night meeting, and when it became clear that it didn't, we got on the phone with all the candidates and they said, yep, 19th works for me. Was given John's number, gave him a call, and then reached out to the town, and everybody together made it happen. But I don't think it would have if somebody hadn't just got on the phone and started calling folks to shake things up a little bit. So that's why I'm running for town council. I think that I have a lot to offer. I think that my leadership abilities, that's the end of it.
Hi, I'm Buddy Sheffield. I moved to Riverbend 14 years ago. Prior to that, I spent 25 years in Los Angeles, where I spent $3,500 a month to rent a 2-bedroom bungalow with a yard the size of a postage stamp. I spent over $1 million in taxes while I was there. My car was stolen 7 times. Once I had to move in order to get my daughter out of a gang-infested junior high school. Once I had to use my gun to break up a fight in front of my house between a redneck in cutoffs and a transvestite prostitute armed with a pair of scissors. So you can understand why I love Riverbend. The problems in Los Angeles were not inherent. It's a great place. It's got so much going for it. It could be a wonderful place to live. The problem is bad public policy. So when I came to Riverbend, I saw it's peaceful, it's beautiful, it's safe, it's quiet. I wanted to keep it that way. So I decided I wanted to be a part of making good public policy. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
I just love following Buddy. Hi, I'm Barbara Moore, and I'm a second-generation Riverbender. I've lived here with my partner since 2003. In my previous life, I was a sworn peace officer with a master's degree in criminal justice from John Jay College, and I was a licensed social worker with a master's degree from Adelphi University. I've contributed over 10,000 volunteer hours to Riverbend, beginning in 2003 with Community Watch, serving on 4 advisory boards, helping found Friends Helping Friends, CERT, and the Community Organic Garden. I've coordinated the 4th of July food tent for 16 years. This is my 3rd time on the town council. During my term, taxes were not raised, employees achieved pay equity. We were able to begin immediate cleanup after Florence. The town manager was authorized to seek grants that secured over $13 million for infrastructure maintenance and repairs. We did not have to borrow money, and we are rebuilding our fund balance. Residents can feel safe in their homes and secure, knowing we are one of the most financially stable towns in North Carolina. I have advocated for quality of life enhancements that include town appearance and recreational amenities, including expanding the dog park. I'm currently liaison to the CAC, Parks and Recreation, the Red Caboose Library, and the Riverbend Community Organic Garden. It's important for us to work together for the best interests of our town. I'm a longtime Riverbender, and I hope to spend the rest of my days here. I'm as invested as you are in maintaining the character of our town and the safekeeping of our community. I would like to continue serving you. As a council member, I'm responsible to work for the best interests of Riverbend. Consider my candidacy based on the many successes and improvements that have been made during my years on the council. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is James Castronova. I'm originally from New Jersey. The first time I moved to North Carolina was when my parents retired and moved down here to retire 30 years ago. I followed them. I was in my early 20s, and I graduated from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And then I moved to San Diego to attend law school, where I graduated, and I stayed in San Diego for 25 years. And I moved back to North Carolina 2 years ago with my wife and my 2 kids. I have a almost 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And we moved back to give them a better quality of life, because as much as we love San Diego, it's not a great place to raise children. It's not as bad as Los Angeles, but it's got its issues. And my parents found us the land that we built our house on Virginia Court. And we spent a year in Greenville while the house was being built. And we just really love it here and think this is a great place to raise our children. And I ran for council, decided to run for council because of the rezoning issue. That was the prime reason I'm running. I was very upset at this rezoning proposal, and it felt like it was a done deal. And I wanted to do something about it. So I organized the opposition to that rezoning. I knocked on literally hundreds of doors. talked to hundreds of people. A lot of you I see here, I've met and talked to, got to know fairly well. And I'm going to continue to fight against that rezoning.
Oh,
No, it's,
yeah, it's Bud Bates' like turn.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was
Sorry.
sitting
Move
down,
your time back. Go ahead.
sitting too low in the chair here. I passed out this profile to you rather than spend a lot of time talking about it. Basically, I started out as a youngster in the farming area, little tiny community in a one-room school situation with 2 people in my class in 6th grade. And ended up ultimately going up through doctoral study in New York City over a period of many, many, many years. But en route to that, I became very, very, very interested in people, without question. And my first involvement with that was the general instructor of the Air Force for officers and NCOs. And that's where I began to decide formalized study for me was to go the route and do people science and mathematics because I was also interested in finance. So I've combined the 2 of those over the years, and rather than touch each one of these bases that's on that piece of paper, I ended up with an international accounting firm, and quite in contrast to my original environment of living. My last assignment and final assignment when I retired was New York City in Tower Number 1, and fortunately I retired there in '90 because that on the 100th floor is where the airplane hit, and I was not there. I ended up consulting with another firm in New York City, BDO Seaman, for another 7 years or so. Ended up moving down here in 1997. We've been here in Riverbend for 25 years now. It's come a long way in that 25 years, and all very, very positive. And it was a real opportunity for me to keep doing people and money and finance in combination. So for a few years before getting into the finance area, I was involved across the board. Now I've been there 17 years.
Okay.
Hey, good evening, Jeff Weaver. I've been in Riverbend for about 10 years. I live here with my wife and my 3 little children. I have a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old, all boys. So that's why my hair is gray. I started my professional career in 2001. I became a firefighter for the city of Kinston. It's the best job I ever had. I never got to go back to it. 9/11 occurred and it kind of pissed me off. So I left and joined the Marine Corps, where I served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps as a Marine Scout sniper, served several tours of Iraq. When I came back, I kind of fell into the law enforcement world and was hired as a police officer for the city of Kinston. Worked there for about 5 years, and then I went back overseas to multiple deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq as a defense contractor for the State Department. Ultimately led me back here to New Bern, where I've been a police officer for the city of New Bern for the past 8 years. I decided to serve, or at least put my name in the hat and attempt to serve on the board, because I do not believe that we currently have a representative government. Riverbend is not just a community of retirees. We have a large range of citizens, from the retired community all the way down to individuals like myself who have children. There's some things that I would like to see changed or added to the community from the perspective of a father of 3 little boys that are not currently being done now. So in short, I've just thrown my name in the hat to give a different perspective to the board. So thank you.
Closer.
hi, my name is Donna Ross. My husband and I moved from Detroit to New Bern in 2018. Florence gave us a swift, painful lesson in hurricanes, which prompted our moving to River Bend in February 2019. The events that brought us to River Bend were unpleasant, but the good that came from that is that we found River Bend. I'm an RN in the emergency department at Carolina East. Nursing is a second career for me. Before that, I did different aspects of accounting: receivables, payables, collections, customer service, in a variety of industries. I have served on several civic and nonprofit boards as a member and often as the treasurer. I've also served as an officer for several organizations, most often as treasurer and occasionally president. I am accustomed to the functions and procedures of boards, which are much like the town council. I have many years of experience in seeing the big picture, having the responsibility of making decisions in the best interest of others and being active in carrying out those decisions. The request for rezoning of 403 Old Pollocksville Road sent me on a mission to allay some of the fears I was seeing posted on Facebook. I researched the issues and posted answers to some of them. I sent emails to the mayor and council members seeking clarification and answers to my concerns. Because of my post and communiques, my family and community members encouraged me to run for town council. And since I've got a couple of minutes left, I think all of us new people up here is because of 403 Old Pollocksville Road that we're here. So, okay.
Thank you. You all did a great job of keeping within the 2 minutes. I'm very proud of you. I'm going to take a minute of privilege just to mention, if you all realize how this works, there are 8 candidates running, but actually Donna and Barbara are running for the same seat. And one of those 2, the highest will get elected. The other 6 candidates are running for 3 seats. So the top 3 vote getters will get those 3 seats. And so it's a little bit unusual, but that's the way it works. Okay, question number 2. And this came, a lot of people wrote this about, should candidates be required to attend council meetings and serve on committees and whatnot before they really throw their hat in the ring and run for office? And Donna, as a new candidate?
I believe it is good to have knowledge of what is happening in your community, of issues and concerns. The council meetings, several work sessions, and the rezoning hearing have been recorded and are available for viewing on a town website. I have not attended a lot of meetings, but I have viewed them online and live streamed when available, and I have been following the issues. I started attending the meetings after I contacted the mayor and council members about the rezoning. I thought it was important for them to see who was communicating with them. I have lived in several states and in many different settings, ranging from very rural with acreage, heating with wood, on a private self-maintained dirt road in Virginia, where I was the founding member and treasurer of a food co-op, to an urban historic district in the city of Detroit, where I served on boards and was active in community organizations and civic groups. I am currently a volunteer for the New Bern Civic Theater, a Riverbend Garden Club member. I participate with a group of local women conducting a monthly bingo activity at Riverstone, and I am the treasurer for the Eastern Tar Heel chapter of the Emergency Nurses Association. I've been a volunteer medic for the MS Bike Ride, a ghost guide for Ghost Walk, and a bell ringer for the Salvation Army Red Kettle campaign. The time and energy I spent researching the rezoning and compiling of information that I posted on Facebook, I didn't have to do that, but I was compelled to provide facts that address some of the concerns. I was not supporting or defending either side of the issue. I was simply providing information about what protections were in place and what was lacking. I have a long history of service to my communities.
Thank you. Jay?
All right. I hope I don't offend the people who wrote this question, but it's a terrible idea. We need more people to run. We need to encourage more people to run. I understand the intention behind this. It's good. It's thought of with good intentions. You know, showing up to council meetings and serving on the advisory boards shows dedication and interest in the town affairs, but you wind up disqualifying a lot of people that would otherwise be a good candidate to run. For instance, this rule, if it was implemented today, would disqualify Jeff, myself, Donna, and Mike. And Buddy. So, you know, for that reason, I have to respectfully disagree with that suggestion.
I believe it is helpful for all residents to attend council meetings or watch meeting videos to better understand the issues facing the town and the council. I believe it is very beneficial for candidates to do so, since they will need to be up to speed on these issues the minute that they take the oath of office. Likewise, it is helpful to understand what the various advisory boards and committees do, and serving on one could be an eye-opening experience. However, candidates should not be penalized in any way if they aren't or haven't been able to attend meetings or participate on boards. It will just make their learning curve a bit tougher. When I was first appointed to the town council, I made it my mission to attend every advisory board meeting at least once and every town-sponsored event that first year. I even took a yoga class, believe it or not. I know that doing this prepared me to better understand town issues as a councilman. One of the candidates has suggested that the council meetings be live streamed. I support the use of technology to make factual information available to everyone. I hope the town finds a way to do this sooner rather than later. Thank you.
My answer is going to be really short. No, I do not believe candidates should have to serve on town committees before seeking office, and I'll use Mr. Sheffield as a fine example. He's done a damn fine job on the board, and he's never been on a committee. As far as the answer to the questions of the meetings, everybody up here right now I have seen at council meetings, so that's my answer to that question.
Okay. That,
Is that me?
Prior to my becoming a member of the town council, I served on several different advisory boards. And then ultimately in June of 2005, I was appointed to a position on council to assume responsibilities for finances. And I have accordingly been in that role since then.
Barbara?
Thank you. Candidates bring many assets and much life experience with them when they run for council and they run for office, but they're missing an important piece if they are unfamiliar with the body they wish to join. Shouldn't candidates have an understanding of the office they are running for and the town they wish to serve? In my opinion, one of the best ways to learn is to attend meetings and get involved in the community, to experience the process firsthand. Volunteering on an advisory board or committee is good training. Serving in the town council is not an easy job. It is a lot of responsibility to govern a town, to honor the vision statement and the priorities that we have committed to. There's a learning curve, but it's not as steep if you've had other experience with town service. I am better prepared to run because I served on town boards and committees. I began attending council meetings several months before I first decided to run for office in 2011. It became a personal commitment, and I have continued to attend every council meeting and budget workshop except when I'm out of town. How important do you think it is for candidates to attend meetings to learn about the town they wish to govern? You're the ones who decide.
All right. Yeah, many of us bring talents and abilities to town council that aren't necessarily predicated on activity in other groups here in Riverbend. I believe it's most important is what talents and abilities we do bring to the position, not necessarily what other people or what we point to that we participated in. It's important for those that serve on town council to have experience in leadership and management and understanding how the process works, regardless of where that experience comes from. For myself, I've been on many organizations. I've founded other organizations, and I've participated in leadership. I haven't had that opportunity here yet in Riverbend, but hopefully come November 8th, I will.
Okay. Betty, you're the closer.
I didn't do any of these things before I ran for council. There is some value in learning how things are being done, but I think that's outweighed by living here and making up your own mind about how things ought to be done. I see the people who come to the town council meetings, and I appreciate both of them. I will say that when I first ran for council, there was an extensive training program for the candidates. And we were taken on tours of the police station and the sewer plant and all of that. And we had a big book of things to teach us how the town ran and why and how that all related to state law. And I think we should reinstitute that. I think that would be a valuable thing. When I first got to the council, when we visited the police station, at that time, our police were housed in about 150 square feet in one end of a rundown old pole barn. And I said to myself, our police need a better place to be housed. And I worked very hard to make that happen. And I'm proud that we finally have decent police station. Thank you.
Great. The next question is kind of a lightning round. It's going to be 1 minute, yes or no, and then if you want a few comments after that. The question is, and it came up at the council meeting recently, on the advisory board should be term limits. So the same people aren't on in perpetuity, or the chairman. And there's a debate on that at the council meeting, and they'll come up again, I suspect. So I'm curious, starting with James, do you think there should be term limits on the advisory board for the members and the chairman? Yes or no?
Absolutely, 100%. You got to keep that water flowing so it doesn't get stagnant.
Donna?
It is desirable to get more people involved in the advisory boards. Board members may feel that they cannot leave for fear no one will step up to take the position. My preference is implementing a plan to attract and recruit members, requiring current members to reapply at the end of a 2-year term, and the council to give preferential consideration to new applicants before implementing term limits for members. I do support a term limit for the chairperson. I know from personal experience that members get comfortable letting the same person bear the responsibility. And newer members may be reluctant to volunteer for a leadership role, fearing to appear critical of the previous leadership.
Jeff?
Yes, I am in favor of term limits, not only for the advisory boards, but also for this council. You get bias in relationships, and you get council members that get inappropriate relationships with board members and make comments like getting paint on your face, and they need to be taught a lesson when you try to bring new ideas to the table.
Okay, Buddy?
Oh, I'm sorry. The advisory boards are volunteers, and I'm not sure that thank you for working for the town for nothing, now get out is good public policy. If there are enough people in town that feel a particular advisory board is not being run well, then please come out and volunteer to be on that board. And if there are enough of you, then you can vote that person out. I don't know, it's different when people are elected or paid. I think then the term limits could be valuable. But in this case, we have a lot of trouble getting people just to be on these advisory boards. I know we got an email and a new application just rolled in yesterday. But usually, I was involved in the election for the planning board, and nobody wanted to run except the guy who's there now.
Don?
Yes, I'm in favor of term limits for advisory board chairpersons. At a recent council meeting, I proposed that all advisory board chairpersons be limited to 2 consecutive 1-year terms. After that, they could remain on the board in another role if they chose. My peers on the council voted 3-2 to deny my proposal. I believe that rotation in leadership positions is essential for organizations to improve. New leadership means new ideas. New leaders build off past successes. It keeps the board innovative and eliminates the belief by some chairpersons that they own that board. And while we're on the subject of rotations, we should also make sure that the council liaisons get rotated, at least either annually or every 2 years. Because as Jeff just mentioned, things get a little bit too chummy sometimes and people forget their real role. Thank you.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I would support term limits on advisory boards. There are enough people in our community to fill these roles. By having term limits and leadership positions of the advisory boards, it would encourage a wider range of ideas, as well as prevent people from feeling obligated to fill these roles after they're ready to pass on the torch. I also believe that we would see more activity in community advisory boards if meetings were held during times that working families could participate more actively.
Okay, Barbara?
Yes, sir. In a word, no. Creating term limits for advisory board members is destructive. It is based on the erroneous supposition that there are people who are lined up and waiting to join. Fact, it is difficult to find and retain volunteers for boards. We need to keep the ones we have. Last year, the council voted to eliminate the Public Works Advisory Board after an extended period of vacancies. They couldn't fill them. 3 other boards have been and are currently experiencing extended vacancies. Members, dedicated volunteers who wish to serve should be thanked and encouraged to stay, not forced to leave. Thank you.
Okay, closer, Bud.
My feelings are a combination of Barbara's and Buddy's, really. And I think it's a very important situation where we have volunteers, they're doing a good job, we want them to keep doing, what they want to do. But we should have some sort of provision in there which also includes opportunities, not through the, if you will, removal of some of these people from office, if you will, but make room for others to be added to the overall effort, so that we're providing ongoing opportunity for anyone and everyone who wants to be a part of a volunteer effort within the town.
Okay. Question number 4 might get some comments. It was certainly a hot issue at one point. Ellis Development, as you knew, asked for rezoning. I believe it was approved by the planning commission. It went to the council. It was withdrawn before it went to the council, so there's no vote on it. But the question is, had you sat on the council at that time, would you have voted in favor or not? And this is a 3-minute question. More time, 2-minute question. Okay, 2-minute question. Would you have voted yes or no? And then what are your thoughts if, what would the best and highest use for that property? What should we do? What should be done with it? And that started with Bud.
I think it's not a question of whether or not it's going to get developed. You can't expect an owner to hold it for the rest of his life. If it's available, then there are going to be opportunities for people to pursue who are in that business. My feeling is that there should be an overall provision that may accommodate some multiple dwelling, but not an outlandish amount. There are an awful lot of multiple dwellings right here in town of River Bend already that a lot of people have really recognized all that much. And they've been very beneficial to the overall spirit and overall development of the town as well. So my feeling would be that not to vote for it the way it was, but I'm interested in seeing how the revision that's been made accordingly with that has been processed with the planning board and comes back to council for review.
Jay.
Well, I think it's no secret to everyone that I would have voted no for everything that was presented by Ellis Development Group. I personally, my house is right across the street from the property, would like to see the property developed under its current zoning. When this town was founded in 1981, one of the premises that were placed out on the forefront were responsible development. I think initially Ellis came in, and rightfully so, they're a company designed to make money, and I think they wanted to maximize profit on the smallest portion of land that they could. So again, I would like to see it developed under its current zoning, which is R20A, which would mirror the section of River Bend that it is currently in. Yes, we have areas in River Bend that have townhomes, multiple family dwellings, but not that section right there. And it's going to change the face of that portion of the neighborhood, and the individuals bought their houses there because that's what they wanted. So,
Donna?
I would have voted no, not because I oppose the rezoning in general, but because our current ordinances do not provide for any provisionals. The town would have had too little control over the development. There is a need for housing in this area, and the zonings of planned development, single family and multifamily, already exist in River Bend. With provisionals, the town could require more parking spaces for the townhouses, walking trails, a park, bike lanes, a buffer between the current homes and the development, and much more. A road through the northwest quadrant is needed to provide an evacuation route. An application for money to build the road was recently denied. Development of that land would add to getting that evacuation route. I would want the development to have the things I mentioned: walking trails, bike lanes, a park, buffers, more green space. I would want the development to be enviable, to add value to our town. Regarding the multifamily, there is a need for more multifamily units in our town, both for people who are starting out and for those wanting to downsize and have less home and yard maintenance. With the ordinance in place at the time of the vote, I would have voted no.
James.
Okay, so everyone knows I'm a hard no on this question. I definitely would have voted no, and I will never vote to rezone that land. And that's why I'm running, because I know that I can't be bought or intimidated into voting otherwise. This is a really big issue because Ellis Development's coming back, and they've already tried to reapply. Not many people know this. Council member told me. Their application was recently rejected due to some typos or something, and they were advised by someone in the town to wait until after the election to reapply again. But I want to talk about what I see as the next front in this war against this developer. There's an effort to get Ellis Development Group in through the back door by something called conditional rezoning. That's the next plan to get this through. I am 100% against conditional rezoning. It is a loophole designed to bring in Ellis Development so they can accomplish what they intended to all along. And it's important that everyone figures out who supports conditional rezoning and who doesn't. That is what I'm really afraid of right now. And I understand it's coming up for a vote soon. So it's important that we put people on this board that are not only against the rezoning, but they're against conditional rezoning. Because we don't need Ellis to come in through the front door or the back door.
Mike.
Yeah, I'm a hard no against rezoning the land to accommodate higher density housing. We simply don't have the infrastructure in place to support it. And you can be rest assured that Ellis Development Group will be coming back again. We need folks on our town council who will not be swayed by them. Personally, I would love to see the land used as a green space or as an attraction for the wildlife that's brought so many people here. But unfortunately, that's not really the world that we live in. That land will be developed at some point. If the land is to be developed, it would need to be developed under its current zoning of R20A to prevent issues from shoehorning 300 homes into such a small space that is not equipped to handle the additional strain on traffic, water, and other infrastructure needs, as well as diminish the quality of life of our community as a whole. Shoreline is busy enough without an additional 600 cars coming and going daily. Unfortunately, the price of the land doesn't facilitate a housing development under its current zoning. I believe the owners have every single right to sell the land for any price that they see fit, but I don't believe that Riverbend is obligated to diminish the character of our community to accommodate cheaply built, high-density subdivisions that the price of that land requires.
Buddy.
I have made no secret of my opposition to rezoning. I did an extensive PowerPoint presentation about this. It's just, to me, it's sardine town, and it's almost four times the population density of the rest of Riverbend. Ellis is coming back, but it's not with conditional rezoning. They proposed a thing called a planned development, and they may likely present that to the planning board in November. And I've seen it, and it still has 305 lots in it. It's got some amenities like a green zone, which is just happens to coincide with the wetlands along the side of the creek that they can't build on anyway. It's, you can have a park and whatever, but it's all lipstick on a pig. It's gonna be bad for the town and I'm against it. I'd like to see it stay the way it is or be developed as mini farms.
Don?
Had the rezoning application not been withdrawn, the council would have voted on the original plan submitted to and reviewed by the planning board. We all remember that blue and yellow map. It was the 70-acre single-family, 30-acre multifamily plan. I would have voted no. I believe that the Ellis Group will be back with another plan for rezoning. I also believe the town has taken the correct steps to tighten the requirements for new developments. While I don't agree with the Ellis Group's approach to citizen participation, it is unfair to say that they are not listening. They heard the residents' concerns, in my opinion. I think their new plan will have about 8 acres of multifamily housing and more park areas and buffer zones. Regarding any new development or rezoning proposal, my role as a councilman isn't to advocate for or against development. My role is to ensure that anyone who submits a proposal is treated fairly, whether that proposal is submitted by you, your child, your neighbor, and yes, even a developer from Raleigh. Riverbend is a special place. Many of you have described it to me as a little piece of heaven. I agree. It is understandable to want to keep things the way they are. If there is new development in Riverbend, I believe the people that move here will be just like you and me. Yes, multifamily housing such as Pierpoint is needed here and has become a great asset to the community. Why wouldn't it be successful in a new development? There are many people who have had houses in Riverbend that now live in multifamily housing because due to health or finances, they have chosen to downsize. And that's because they want to stay in that little piece of heaven. Thank you.
Okay, Barbara, you're the closer.
Okay, we'll close it. If the previous application had come to a vote, I would have voted no. I opposed increased zoning density. In my opinion, the developer's plan did not recognize the character or needs of our town. Some people don't want any building in the northwest quadrant. I can't promise that won't happen. The landowner, who's a Riverbend taxpayer, is legally entitled to sell his land. When Riverbend began, it was connected by dirt roads. There was a single bus stop because buses couldn't drive through the town. Over the years, homes of different sizes were constructed according to needs and our zoning ordinance. Over the years, homes of different sizes growth is inevitable, but controlled growth is my goal. I want to see a plan, and I want to hear from residents before making a decision. Again, progress is inevitable, but sacrificing our community is not. The town council will be considering the addition of conditional rezoning to our present ordinance. If passed, the town will have more control in how any parcel of land is developed. The ordinance will have to go through the same legal process as any ordinance amendment, including a public hearing at the prescribed time. Future plans must recognize the needs of the town. It is a council member's legal responsibility to consider properly filed applications that come before it. I will exercise the same due diligence I did previously, and I listened to a lot of you at that time. As a council member, I am responsible to work for the best interests of Riverbend. To me, that means preserving our community. Let's work together to achieve that goal.
Thank you. Good job. The next question is one that's kind of looking ahead, and it asks, what are the top 3 priorities the town ought to have? If you're on the council, whoever the council is, what are the 3 priorities? And the timekeeper's going to generously give 3 minutes this time for each answer. And let Jeffrey start.
All right, these are not in order of priority. These are just the 3 priorities that I kind of thought of and put out there. But one, communication and transparency. Those are 2 different things. Our town government and the board, they make an effort to communicate with the citizens. But as I said earlier, we have a broad range of citizens. We have older retired individuals. We have, younger families. There's multiple ways for a town to communicate these days. Adding a social media platform, live streaming council meetings. I think a lot of times we just display a one-dimensional communication plan, and that checks the legal box, and they don't take a step further and try to push information out to the citizens. And then obviously transparency, there's a lot of things that occur. I won't get into a great amount of detail at this time about them, but there's a lot of things that you get the textbook answer of that's a personnel matter, or we're not allowed to give that information out, which doing some research, that's not always entirely true, and that is not always the case. Information can be pushed out to the citizens because it's important for everybody to know what's going on with the business and the dealings of our town. The next issue that is a priority is brown water. I understand that water quality has been tested and it's supposed to be safe, but I see a lot of pictures on Facebook and I talk to a lot of citizens. I've even lost clothes in my washing machine because it got stained brown. That's a problem. I'm a logical individual. There's plenty of water systems across the state that don't have brown water shooting through the washing machine or filling up the bathtub. I'm not a civil engineer, but there are civil engineers out there. So that needs to be addressed. And then obviously maintaining infrastructure and not waiting for it to get dilapidated and fall apart. The dock is an example of that. It shouldn't have never been get in such disrepair where it had to be closed down and it was unsafe for people to get on, things like that, the roadways, going back to the water system. So to summarize, communication and transparency, water issues, and then maintaining our infrastructure before it becomes dilapidated. Those are my 3 priorities.
Buddy?
The top 2 priorities of any municipality are public safety and essentially infrastructure, roads, and that kind of thing. I think Riverbend does a pretty good job of those things. We have a good police department. We have low crime. The infrastructure is not horrible. The streets are in decent shape. But after that, you get into quality of life issues. And that's where we have to say Riverbend's water sucks. So I think that would be a very big priority. It's a difficult problem, and it will not be cheap to fix. Riverbend doesn't have a lot of things that other municipalities have, like schools and hospitals. We don't have a professional fire department. So what money we do have can be spent on these quality of life issues, and the water is a big one. If I had my dream, I would love to see the town build a riverfront park so that everyone in town could enjoy the river the way that I do.
Okay,
Me?
James.
The water, the water, and the water. Those are the 3 things that I want to focus on. I would put all my energy into addressing the water issue. Other than that, I think we need to look into how the advisory boards are run. There's a lot of drama that goes on with the advisory boards, and it's causing a lot of division. And so I think we need to start a conversation on that. And, to touch on what Jeff said, the communication, for me, the whole reason I started the opposition was because of the lack of communication I heard coming from the council. We didn't know how the council was leaning on the rezoning issue, and that had everyone anxious. And as I knocked on doors and talked to people, a lot of people would sign the petition and say, it just feels like a done deal. Why are they doing this? How is this even possible? That's what everyone was asking. How can this even be considered? And we weren't getting any answers. And so that's the one thing. I don't have a problem speaking my mind. I'm all in favor of, getting all the information before you make a decision, but I will tell you how I feel every step of the way. When I saw the yellow and blue map, it was very easy for me to say, I'm a no on this. And it would have made us, I think, as a town feel better if we had better communication from our council members, letting us know where they stand at any point. And I don't understand why that hasn't happened or why that's so difficult. I'm not a career politician. I don't intend on being a career politician. My goal is to stop the rezoning and keep Riverbend's neighborhood charm intact. And I will stand up and fight for that. So I don't know, I started rambling, sorry.
Don,
Yes, my top three priorities are land development policies, drinking water quality, and street paving. Reasonable and rational land development policies and requirements. We cannot be at each other's throats over property that none of us own. What we can do is ensure that the town's requirements are reasonable, are what the town wants, and can be legally enforced if the developer or the builder attempts to renege on those requirements. Drinking water quality. The town must meet minimum requirements for drinking water as determined by state and federal regulations. I understand the town regularly tests our drinking water, and it has always met these minimum requirements, meaning it's safe to drink. Many residents who have become concerned with the minimum requirement water have installed whole house water filters, water softeners, and reverse osmosis systems in their home. The town manager is currently pursuing a grant to upgrade our water supply system. I believe the current estimate to upgrade the water supply system is $10 million. If we have 1,500 homes that are on the town's water system, and you divide 10 million by 1,500, you get $6,700 per home, plus interest without a grant. Now, this is my math. Don't blame this on Delane or anyone else. Those are simply the numbers that I heard and what I've calculated. I suggest we be patient and see if Riverbend is grant worthy. I also suggest that we should prepare to have a voter referendum on the November 2024 ballot, specifically noting that there may be a substantial cost to homeowners if we move forward with a bond or other financing to upgrade the system. My third item is street paving. The town receives funding for street paving from the state. Each year I've been on the council, I believe the annual funding has dropped. Although the town is using the proper strategy for prioritizing areas to be paved, which is worst first, I think we are falling behind and not doing enough paving and widening to keep pace with roadway deterioration. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Barbara?
These are the priorities that I've identified with help from the input you gave when I knocked on your doors, read your emails, and spoke with you wherever we met. 1, to maintain our tax rate while addressing infrastructure issues that include water quality, which I'll address in another question, flooding and drainage, a new public works building, and our reserves. Our property tax rate is lower now than it was in 2014. Outstanding grant writing is enabling us to address otherwise cost-prohibitive infrastructure needs. I want to keep it that way. 2, address zoning and issues related to development while remaining aware of our current population and our changing demographics. And I believe the inclusion of conditional zoning is going to give us more control over development plans. Citizen input will also help with how that is applied. 3, quality of life concerns that affect our residents and influence prospective buyers. That includes our safety, the town's appearance, and recreational opportunities. Our dedicated police force officers ensure we are one of the safest towns in North Carolina. We need to support them. Appearance and recreation are areas where volunteers shine and ideas flourish. It's time to seek grants to build things like a new playground and a pickleball court. The only thing I would oppose is using our reserves, our fund balance, for non-emergency amenities until we achieve the minimum amount that's committed to in our budget. After listening to many of you and being active in my community, these are the priorities I believe are critically important. But take note, there are no emergencies and no crises. That is because your town is well managed by your council and well run by our manager and town employees. Problems are responded to promptly, although some things certainly take longer than others. Is there room for improvement? Always. These priorities identify what I believe are the areas you wanted addressed first. Do you agree? Let us know.
Thank you. Bud? You're up.
I would first say that we need to continue to provide a safe, dynamic, and attractive community for people, if you will, who are enjoying their life in the town because of the facility being provided as such at this time. But going to a basic, we need to be continuously focused on the environment setting, as has been referenced by two other people up here without question. And in addition to that, we need to be constantly on, if you will, a ongoing effort to maintain the quality of our drinking water and of our wastewater system. And there have been references made here where some drinking waters in parts of the town are chocolate in color, so to speak, as it's been shared with me. And in many instances, those have also been traced back to something happened within that home structure, even the pipes, et cetera, and not necessarily external. And that's what's been determined by professionals we've retained to come in and look at them. But that doesn't mean the job's done. It certainly is not. We need to continue with that as a primary goal, with constant, if you will, focus being given to the health for the people as well as the service for the people in that area. The remainder of the town facility is an ongoing study as far as council is concerned. Objectives are set in all the different dimensions of the town structure. There are three major areas that break up the financial dimension that we are focused on very continuously. Enterprise funds, there are two of those, one for water, one for wastewater, and the other is general fund, and that's for all other expenses that are incurred in maintaining the town. So far, that has come to be a very controllable situation. We've not had a tax increase rate from the 26 cents in the last 4 years now. We do not have any debt in town as a result of efforts for grants, aid that's been received on the outside. And all we need to be doing now is to continue to effectively implement, if you will, the thinking patterns that we've applied in the past, as well as addressing whatever current or new issues that may come up that are shared with us.
Donna?
The council needs to address the zoning ordinance, as I mentioned earlier, adding the option to require provisionals. I believe these are currently in the works and will hopefully be in place before the next council term begins. Water, the water treatment plant, and the quality of water. A new treatment plant is needed. The town manager has submitted a grant application, but the funds may be denied. If funds are denied, alternate plans and sources of funding should be a priority. I will discuss water more on question 7. Flooding. A grant was obtained to provide better drainage in Channel Run area, reducing the damage from flooding when it occurs. Preserving life and reducing property damage from flooding should remain a priority. Also regarding flooding is the need for a road through the northwest quadrant providing an evacuation route. And then development of the northwest quadrant will be a priority. I think it is highly unlikely that someone will purchase the land and continue to use it as a tree farm, and also unlikely that a philanthropist will purchase it and make it an animal refuge. Ellis Development withdrew its rezoning request, but I believe, and as I've heard tonight, they will make that request again. If Ellis resubmits the request for rezoning, the process will start over and require another public hearing. The council will need to carefully consider what restrictions and requirements it will impose, to consider rezoning. This is presuming the ability to impose provisions has been added to the ordinances. I have a strong sense of justice and fairness. I can see many sides of an issue, able to look at things from different perspectives. This occasionally puts me in the position of a devil's advocate, attempting to get people to consider opposing views. I believe this is a positive quality for a council member. I do not believe anyone would want a council that would deny their request without first giving it careful consideration. Change is inevitable and is sometimes dictated by changing laws. When possible, I favor compromise, always to do the most good for the most people.
Mike, did
All right. I'm not sure if anybody's mentioned it tonight, so I'll go ahead and bring it up, but the water quality is really bad in this town.
Haven't heard of them.
No, yeah, not a lot of people are talking about it. But no, we're going to address it later on, but definitely the water problem, our water problem needs to become a top priority for our community to resolve as promptly as feasible. This is going to be a big project. It's going to be an expensive project, but the can's been kicked down the road far enough. Now is the time to get this problem resolved and figure out what's really going on and what really needs to happen to make it work. I also believe that we need a more adequate park, as well as facilitating use of the spaces that we currently already have by adding additional lighting and expanding our current spaces such as the walking path, our skate park, and our other facilities that we have here. We have a beautiful community and an excellent opportunity to create an inviting centerpiece for families and people in the community to gather. Another top priority that honestly prompted me to run for town council is more effective communication between town council and residents. Meeting the bare minimum is not enough to get people involved. Many people in Riverbend have become frustrated and fed up with not feeling like they're heard by the leadership here in Riverbend. I can't tell you how many times people have asked me, why do you waste your time going to the meetings? They don't listen, they don't pay attention, which I don't necessarily always agree with. But we're too small of a community for our residents to come to a public meeting and to be stonewalled, not acknowledged, and half the time not even given decency to be looked at when they're speaking. I think that we need to bring another caliber of respect for the community to town council.
Thank you. Our next question, people mentioned taxes, and that's the point of our next question. North Carolina requires the property be reevaluated every 6 to 8 years. And you can imagine that property values have gone up here a lot since I think 2016 is the last time they did it in Riverbend. So you can imagine how much more your property is worth than it was in 2016. So the valuation is going to go way up. And the council will have a choice of what do you set the tax rate at? If they kept the tax rate, everyone would scream and they get a lot of money, but they won't. They'll bring the tax rate down relatively close to what the rate increase was. But they have a choice. If they actually decrease the tax rate, they could do it enough so the town made less money and you get more money. It'd be a tax decrease. They could do a revenue neutral tax rate, which the town would get the same amount of money it had the previous year, and most residents would pay about the same amount they paid the previous year. Or they could say, well, we're going to lower it, but not quite as much as it went up, and that way we'll get some more revenue for the city, and here's why we want that more revenue. There's no right answer, but the question is, are there something you would do that would require more revenue, be willing to raise taxes to implement that program? And starting out will be Barbara.
Thank you. No one can honestly promise what they're going to do months from now during the next budget season. But looking forward, I hope to vote for and adopt a tax rate that's going to be revenue neutral. This is a position the council has taken in the past and one I voted for during one of my previous times on the council. The town budget has been substantially the same for several years, and presently there's no critical need to increase revenue at the expense of taxpayers. For the same reason, there's no justification to cut taxes, especially since our fund balance, which are our reserves, is still $693,000 below the town's policy of $2 million needed to balance or cover any catastrophic emergencies, such as a Hurricane Florence. At this time, I don't see any reason to raise taxes. The town is operating well, and there's no current priority need. As much as I would like to fund some projects, I don't favor a tax increase to fund a non-emergency. I also oppose using reserve funds for non-emergencies. They should be available for an unforeseen large expense. We have a good track record on that. During the 2008 recession, services were maintained and no employees were laid off. Reserve funds were used to pay for the new municipal building. There were enough reserves to cover catastrophic expenses after Hurricane Florence. Also, if the town needs to pay for a new water treatment plant, that's a separate item, and it should be done through a state low, no interest loan. But that would have to be repaid from money that we have in our enterprise fund. It's a different topic. If you're satisfied with the town's financial practices, please vote for the candidates who will honor your wishes, who understand what it is and will honor your wishes. I will.
But what's your thought?
A couple of comments that were made here, just to clarify them. The funds that are used in the general account area, so to speak, are not ever commingled with the enterprise funds, which are water and wastewater. They're standalone. So that there is no impact as far as wastewater and water supply is concerned if it has an issue on the tax rate. The tax rate remains the same. Just to clarify what is being referenced in that. My particular posture as far as the selection of my options would be to go to revenue neutral as it stands at this time. And there's always an opportunity here for it to even drop from that, depending upon how, after all the reevaluations are put together in 2023, they come to a particular pattern that says there's no longer a need for 26 cents at that rate, and it can be now dropped back to 25 or 24 or whatever it may be. And that is, I will assure you, something that will be looked at very closely, without question.
Mike?
Yeah, in an ideal world, I'd honestly like to see property taxes abolished. We shouldn't be renting our property from the government, but unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in. Overinflated housing costs create a myriad of issues, which have the greatest impact on the most vulnerable in our community, who are lower income or fixed income earners. I think it's prudent to look at the difference in our current revenue from property taxes versus what the increased property tax valuations will generate, and determine the impact that reducing tax rates will have on residents while balancing the need for increasing expenses of the town to maintain appropriate wages for employees like our police officers, as well as increasing expenses for maintaining and expanding our town's infrastructure. I would like to see that it remain neutral.
Donna?
Taxes. Zillow shows our house increased more than 50% in value over the price we paid for it just in February 2019. Yikes. That would be a substantial tax increase if Craven County and River Bend maintain the current tax rates. Our town manager is skilled at locating and obtaining grants, benefiting all of us by keeping our taxes down. I certainly favor lowering the tax rate to bring in about the same or slightly more than the current taxation. This would probably result in a slight increase in taxes for some people. The cost of goods and services has increased greatly in the past years. Some increase in taxes is inevitable, but efforts must be made to keep increases minimal. Regarding raising taxes for a project or program, every effort should be made, as I believe it has been in the past, to plan for the future and anticipate needs. Health and safety are the areas that I would most consider a tax increase to maintain. Other sources, such as grant money, should be utilized whenever possible.
Thank you. Who we got? Betty?
The last time there was a reevaluation was right after Hurricane Florence, and the values had gone down dramatically because there were a lot of homes in town that were damaged. So the values were nothing like they had been. At that time, the town adopted a revenue neutral tax rate. That meant that the rate went up, but because the values were lower, essentially the average tax bill was unchanged. Now, this time, the values will obviously be much higher. And if we ask the citizens to step up and pay a higher rate when the town needs the extra money, I think it's only fair to have a revenue neutral tax rate with the new evaluation so that everybody essentially gets a tax cut. Wouldn't literally be a tax cut, but you would pay less because the rate would go down to match the evaluation. As far as what would I be willing to raise taxes for? Well, the thing that comes to mind is the water filtration thing. I would hope that we could get grants for at least half of it. But if we had to raise taxes, then I would insist on it be funded by a bond issue. That is the only way under North Carolina law that the citizens have a voice in whether you do a project or not. What Councilman Fogel mentioned about a referendum, that is actually not legal under North Carolina law. The only way is a bond issue. So if you fund it with a bond issue, then people get to decide, okay, this is important enough to me that I'm willing to pay more tax. That's the only way I'm willing to do it.
James?
Well, I'm going to answer the question that was asked. What programs or projects, if any, would you be willing to raise taxes to achieve? And none come to mind other than the water. But I wouldn't vote to raise taxes to solve the water unless I felt the town was really behind that. And if Buddy's saying that that's illegal, I don't know. I take him at his word right now. I haven't done any research on that. But I'm a big fan of straw votes. Like, how many raise their hand if they want their taxes raised to gauge, what the town wants? You can pull everyone together in the soccer field and everyone favor over here. I don't know, something to get some sort of idea what the community's behind. I would not vote to raise taxes because I think that's a good idea. If I get elected, I want to represent the people. I don't think I know better than anyone else. So I can't think of anything other than the water that I may be willing to consider that. But like I said, the people would have to really support that. And I'd have to be confident that I'd have the support of the town before I voted to raise taxes.
Thank you. Don?
Just a clarification to my earlier comment. I may have used the wrong word choice, but my intent was to let everyone know that I wouldn't support anything with a $10 million price tag unless the voters all voted for it, the majority of the voters. First, a clarification. We are talking about a tax rate that the town sets, property values that Craven County determines, and a property bill paid by the property owner. This is a very, very hypothetical question at this point in time. As a councilman, I have relied on input and analysis provided by the town manager as he assembles the draft town budget. He knows the cost of day-to-day operations better than anyone on the council. He gives the council options on what can be funded at what tax rate. This has worked well for me. Generally, I am not in favor of raising the tax rate. In the past, the council has tried to remain revenue neutral, but right now, today, inflation is out of control. All of us are affected by massive inflation, and so is the town. The town sees this in the cost of fuel, equipment, utilities, insurance, payroll, and many other areas, just like you. I don't see a need for a tax rate increase, but I don't automatically support revenue neutral either. Maintaining the current tax rate as set by the town may be the closest thing the town has to a cost of living adjustment. As stated earlier, I am not convinced that the tax rate needs to be adjusted at this time. But if the reevaluations result in additional revenue, I support funding additional paving and widening projects and additional flood mitigation projects like the town has started in the Channel Run area. I support adding lights to the walking path. I also support creating a playground recreation area behind the basketball courts. These amenities could include a unisex restroom and picnic shelter near the basketball courts. Thank you.
Yeah.
Read my lips, no new taxes. Wake up, we're almost done. I can't answer the question of A, B, or C, which type of tax rate, because the the numbers are not in front of us right now. I would like to say that I would vote for a tax rate that's revenue neutral, but as some of the members of the panel have said, you have to balance the what's good for the town and the individuals, because I can sit up here all day long and say I would love to lower your taxes or my taxes because we all pay the same taxes, but we just don't know because the numbers aren't in front of us right now. But if I had a choice, revenue neutral. And then what programs or projects I would be willing to raise taxes for. Obviously, the water system would be one, but I would need the support of everybody in town to say, hey, yes, we're willing to pay just a little bit more. Everybody's going to chip in because that issue at hand is very important to everyone. The water system is the only one I can think of, but if there was something else that was brought before the board and the majority of the community said, hey, this is worth us paying a little bit extra for, then I would obviously be for it. There's also ways to pay for things like grants and nonprofits. If you guys haven't checked out the Riverbend Community Action Group, which is a new nonprofit that was started by some community members, look at them. They're a good way to fund some things with the town, cooperate with them.
Thank you. Well, amazing enough, we're ahead of schedule. And there's time maybe to talk about water. Have you heard anything about the water? I've heard that there's a concern, and we've talked about it some, but this is a chance if you have other thoughts to mention them. And Michael started. Anything else to say about the water system we haven't said?
Yeah, so I understand that there was a study that was done a few years ago to address this issue. I have not had an opportunity to review that document since I found out about it. I've been out of town. But I think that would be an excellent starting point to really dig into the facts of the matter and not just go off of hearsay. As I currently understand it, our water quality issues are multifaceted. Part of that being inadequate filtration at the source, allowing minerals to build up and things like that to get into our pipes. We have older pipes in the town that contribute to the problem, as well as dead-end lines that result in stagnation in our lines that allow for more buildup. And so that's why you'll see the big, the flushing, the brown water from time to time. Our clean drinking water has become a pervasive problem in the community that should have been addressed many years ago. We have the ability to fix the problem. But it's going to take some time, money, and most importantly, the people who have the ability to do something about it to step up and make this a serious priority. We pay way too much for our water to have the inferior results that plague so many in our community.
Thank you. Good.
The first thing I'd like to do is to go back and reiterate again, there's references being made over here to water, et cetera. Taxes are not related to your water services. The cost of the water services is strictly contained within the bill that you get for water and wastewater service. That's it. There's a separation, a big wall between them. They're not commingled. Okay, just as you think it through. From the standpoint of taking care of the immediate issue that has, yes, transpired over a long period of time, the professional services that we're getting at this point, and we've tried 2 or 3 different ones over a period of time here, are doing their best to analyze what the overall cost may be. We are not, on the other hand, the only community that's suffering, if you will, as a public from this kind of an issue. And of course, they share that with us as well. So it's not something that we've said, well, that's it, and stepped aside. It's an ongoing kind of thing. If somebody has a suggestion for the professional that's going to make him more professional and more effective, then I would invite you to please contact him and talk with him without question. As far as we know at this point in time, most of the color issue that we have been told about, again, as I mentioned earlier, is coming in many instances from within the home itself or from within the water supply lines for that particular home as it stands. I have nothing more to comment with.
Okay, I'll take some of your time. Okay, the town is working on the water problem. But first, I want to tell you, Riverbend water is safe to drink, and that's the most important thing. Our source, the Castle Hayne Aquifer, is high in iron and manganese, and it makes it hard and sometimes discolored, often discolored. Our water treatment system removes impurities and contaminants to make it potable, but certainly not always attractive. The system is tested hundreds of times annually to ensure its safety. We've never failed an on-site inspection. The entire system of pipes is flushed annually and more often where needed by certified and licensed public works employees. But the only way to remove the hardness and discoloration is through a more advanced water softener and filtration system, and that's very expensive. And the cost would fall on the system users through the enterprise funds. And it would change only the appearance and not its safety. A study by licensed engineers that Mike just referenced suggests that the water treatment plant upgrades be considered. And in response, the town has applied for a $9.3 million grant, which would construct a new water treatment system and address the issues, including appearance. Sometimes problems also originate closer to home. The town's responsible for water that's sent through the PVC pipes as far as the water meter. And after that, if homeowners are in older homes with aging pipes and hot water heaters, they should flush everything regularly to reduce the discoloration, and that'll help some. But in summary, Riverbend water is safe to drink. A water softener system can address the aesthetic problems, but more importantly, the town is taking steps to replace the aging water treatment system with a new one. It's a process that's not going to happen overnight. The members of town council recognize water quality as a priority concern, and they're taking steps to ensure that all Riverbenders will have safe, clear water for years to come.
Donna?
Water quality is a concern I have heard about many times. The water quality reports show that our water is safe to drink. Information on the town webpage says that the discoloration is a matter of aesthetics associated with the hardness of the water and does not affect the safety or quality. Iron and manganese are primarily responsible for the discoloration. The water treatment plant is old and a new plant is needed. As I stated earlier, the town managers applied for a grant to build a new plant that would utilize green sand filtration and zeolite softening. The green sand filtration is superior to our current filtration in removing manganese. I just really wanted to say that word, manganese. Building a new water treatment plant should be a priority for the council. That's it. Mine was short.
Jeff?
The council is working on the problem. It's an ongoing issue. The fix won't happen overnight, and they are taking steps. I've been here for 10 years, and the water has been a topic of concern. So I feel like we can do more. The question asked, do I think there's a solution? Absolutely, there's a solution. There's a bunch of people out here that's what they do, water systems. They're a lot smarter than myself, and then probably anybody up here that's not involved in that type of work. And I think it's time to actually do something. So that's kind of what I got from that one.
Buddy?
Yes, we get our water from the Castle Hayne Aquifer, which doesn't have great water. We're in a coastal plain here, which means we don't have a lot of hills and mountains to help filter the water before it gets to the aquifer. We're also close to the ocean, so there might be some salt and other minerals that seep into there. We do have a plan. The manager has a plan. We're applying for a grant. If we don't get that grant, then we'll have to figure out another way to do it. Some other possibilities would be buying water from another government entity that does filter its water. It's worth pointing out that at the time the town purchased the water and sewer systems from the original developers, there was a huge debt, and we've been paying off that debt for years and years. Well, that debt, it gets paid off in 2027. So at worst, and then we'll have much more leeway, we'll have much more money to work with in the water and sewer funds. So at worst, you have 5 years to deal with crappy water.
James.
I'm not convinced that the water's the same all throughout the town. As I talk to people and see photos and posts on Facebook and whatnot, it looks like some people have worse water than other people. And so I think the first thing we need to do is survey the homeowners across Riverbend and see how systemic the problem is and to what degree. Are we able to fix the worst areas at a cheaper cost? I don't know the answer to that. So I think surveying the homeowners, testing the water across Riverbend is a good start. Possibly retaining experts as a second step to come up with possible solutions. Estimating the cost of those solutions would be the third step. Then finally, once we get that estimated cost, putting it up to a vote. Do we want to raise taxes? Do we want to dip into our surplus to fix part or all of the problem? So we got to begin by figuring out how pervasive is this problem and to what degree, and go from there.
Don, you're closing on this one.
Some people have problems all the time. Some people have an occasional problem, but most people have no problem. The best solution would be to modernize the water supply system. I support a bond offering that will allow people to know what their estimated cost will be if the system is upgraded and how long that assessment will last. I also support applying for grants to cover the cost. But as everyone has said, these things will not happen overnight, and there is no guarantee that either of these will come to pass. In the meantime, the town will continue to provide safe drinking water that meets minimum government requirements. If you have a continual problem for your mental health and well-being, consider installing an inexpensive whole house filter at your home. If your budget allows, consider installing a water softener and reverse osmosis system. Many people have told me that they should not have to pay extra for better than minimum quality water. I don't disagree with that, but the reality is that the other three incumbents up here with me have spent many more years on the council than I have. And if there was an easy, painless solution, I'm sure they would have fixed the water quality issue many years ago. It's a tough problem we all struggle with for more than 5 years, I'm sorry to say. Thank you.
Okay, we're done the last innings here. Just wanted to give everyone a chance to quickly summarize why people should vote for you, starting with Buddy.
Oh, I'm sorry, me?
This over here on this side now.
I have always done my best to make sure that your tax money is spent wisely. When I first started, I had to fight against that $2 million town hall. I was the only one fighting that at the beginning, but ultimately I was able to stop it. Recently, we had a vote on the new Public Works building. We got the bids for the Public Works building, and I thought they were twice what they ought to be. We're essentially talking about a shop with some offices at one end. And 3 council members voted to spend $1.7 million for what is essentially a dolled up pole barn. I was against that, and I will be against things like that in the future. I'm doing my best to keep Riverbend safe and quiet and beautiful, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Barbara.
1 second, thank you. Okay. I'd like you to vote for me because I listen to you. I listen to my constituents and I work to address your concerns. I work collaboratively for the best interests of Riverbend. I promise you honesty, integrity, and transparency. Your issues are my issues. Water quality, flood mitigation, control over development, low taxes, building reserves to prepare for emergencies, and improving quality of life by increasing our recreational opportunities. And if you want to learn more, please go to my website, barbaramorer.com. I love Riverbend, and I want to continue to serve the town. I believe my experience gives me the proficiency and qualifications to help this town continue to operate a safe, solvent, and welcoming community. Please judge me, but based on my track record of successes and improvements that have been made during my years on the council, and I'd like to count on your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Don?
It has been my honor and privilege to serve as your town councilman for the last 4 years. I believe I have supported the fiscal responsibility the town is known for. I have championed many new ideas that would not have been under consideration had I not brought them up. I am proud that over the last 4 years, the town has built or approved 2 new buildings that did not require any bonds or tax increases due to the great financial planning and the town manager's tireless efforts to find grants to supplement our tax base. I believe I have the vision and the ability to keep the town moving forward, keeping my eyes looking through the windshield and not in the rearview mirror. Live in the present, learn from the past, and plan for the future. Thank you in advance for your vote. It is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Mike?
All right, well, from the time that we moved here, my beautiful wife Jessica and I have been involved in as many community activities as we possibly can and have time for, and brought our 3 young kiddos along with us for all of it. I want folks who are positively involved in building up our community, who can communicate effectively and encourage our neighbors to get involved in the community around them. I feel like I embody these qualities that Riverbend needs. Tonight is an example of those leadership qualities that I will bring to the town council. Whether you're the first in line tomorrow morning or are rushing to beat the polls closing on November 8th, remember to vote representing for Riverbend.
Thank you. Donna?
Why should you vote for me? I have a fresh perspective, no preconceived ideas, not influenced by years of doing things in a certain manner. I am analytical and I research issues. I value verifiable facts. I have a strong sense of justice and fairness. I am able to see many sides of an issue and seek compromise and consensus. As I said before, this occasionally puts me in the position of the devil's advocate, attempting to get people to consider opposing views. When possible, I favor compromise to do the most good for the most people. I think this is a good quality to be on the council, to get people to consider different sides of an issue and to seek compromise.
Thank you. Jeff?
I'm gonna try not to sound like a TV commercial. I think you should vote for who you think represents your best interest. I look at things through the optics of a father of 3 children. I am not retired. I am not independently wealthy. So I go to work every day and I have to live with the decisions that are made up here. So vote for who you want. I hope you vote for me. Thanks.
Okay. Bud?
I'd like to continue in your service. It's been a real pleasure for me to capitalize on my financial background and so forth, bring it to the town. I actually function as a finance officer for the town at this time as well. And I work hand in hand with the manager, having to do with the thinking for the financial side of the town's operations and the budgetary planning. And I'd like to continue to be able to do that on your behalf to serve you, which is what I said I would do when I put my hand on that black book 17 years ago. But I've been doing one way or another finance work all of the time. I don't see most of you because most of what I do is through that door in the office over here on a weekly basis. So if I were involved in another way with services, Parks and Rec or something, maybe I'd get to know you better. But now I know you anyway through your tax rates.
James, you're a closer.
All right, I think my background and experiences prepared me for this job. I've been practicing as an attorney for the last 20 years. Over the last 20 years, I've practiced just about every area of law there is, giving me a broad range of experience. But the last 5 years, I've been serving as general counsel of one of the most successful mortgage lenders in Southern California. And I'm also general counsel of the affiliated real estate brokerage, which is one of the most successful Coldwell Banker franchises in their history. I'm also chief compliance officer, so I make sure these multi-million-dollar companies are in compliance with federal, state, and local laws. I have an understanding of how they all interact with each other. And they're all very complicated. So I think I've got the right mindset to come into this and hit the ground running. As far as my positions, you know where I stand on the rezoning. So if you are worried about that, you'd be putting someone on the council where you'd be able to sleep at night knowing exactly where I stand on that issue.
Okay, well, listen, I think, I'm glad you all came. Thank you for coming. I appreciate the decorum. Delane was warning me, you know, but you were great, and you all were great. Thank you for coming. We put the email address of the candidates there. If you have any other questions for them, you know, write them, ask them the questions. Maybe having a hand for the candidates. Thank you for coming. Wish you all the best of luck.
Okay, guys, how about a hand for our audience and the department?
Thanks. All right, thanks you too.